Hey Dane, it's Dr. Scott. I have some feedback for you on your IRB application and the materials that you sent me, your informed consent form, research protocols, your summary, your research summary questions. So in the screencast, I have these documents up here, and there'll be like little notes, and I'll highlight some text. I will send these to you so that you have them and you know what I'm referring to. You might hear some things in the background. It's Sunday afternoon at our place, and the dogs bark for anything. So you might hear some stuff in the background, but it's just our place. All right, so I'll kind of just go through each of these documents. I'll pause the screencast between documents, so that might be a little weird. But let's get into the IRB application itself. Overall, the materials look really strong. So my feedback is there's little here that is you really need to do something. Some of this is you should, and it's up to you. So there's some discretionary stuff, but then there's some things that I think you definitely need to follow up on. Okay, let's get to. Okay, so getting into the risk. I like that you're mentioning both the breach of privacy, potential for psychological harm. It's minor. We probably could get away with an exempt application. I think expedited just kind of covers our bases. So that might even be something that you mention. Or I don't know, that's something that I'll mention to the IRB chair when we send this in. So I think the way that you've kind of phrased things in places, it's a little confusing. It's not usually what we see in IRB, and it's just, I'm going to share with you how we usually do it. So we have here, describe the risk. You're putting it in terms of the participants. It's possible participants will change their mind about the degree of agency that they have in the final report. I think what you're trying to get at is there might be a risk of confidentiality or privacy being breached due to the identifying traits that you mentioned in the research report. There might also be confidentiality breach in terms of the informed consent forms and making sure that they, if those were to get out or something like that. You'll address that in 4B, but 4A, I think, if you kind of just focus on what are the privacy, the potentials for a privacy breach, that's like just do that. I think this about their degree of agency that they have. I think the folks in IRB probably wouldn't recognize that very much, so you might do something like privacy might be breached due to the small community of people who lead the Women's Center and also report, something like that. And that's kind of a shitty draft. I think you'll probably come up with something better. I think also here, it's the note that I have here. During the interview, participants might relive potentially traumatic experiences, especially if they were victims of sexual assault and they went to the Women's Center because of sexual assault. I think that will probably get it across pretty clearly. So overall, it's solid. I think it's just kind of a wording issue at this point, and we can talk about that on Monday if you have ideas or if I'm not being very clear, which happens. How are you going to address the risk? I thought you did a solid job. You're leaving off a couple things that are kind of important. One is where will you store your audio files? Will they be made available? Like, are they just going to be on a computer? Is that computer password protected? IRB will ask those things, so just kind of being a little bit clear, like where the data is going to be, if it's an electronic file, where you're going to keep that stuff. You can say where. You also need to identify where the informed consent forms are going to be stored, and I would say that it would be my office, Massey 423. It'll be there for 2 years, and after 2 years I'll destroy them. But they do kind of ask that stuff. Solid job down here talking about referring people to counseling services. That's great. I use gray highlighting to note places that I thought were a bit wordy or confusing, and I think that here I'm seeing that the study will show certain perspectives from people within a certain institutional context who can attest to the. Like, I get what you're saying, Dane. I think that you might be able to clarify that a bit, shorten that a bit. Okay. You might also mention here about the consent form, especially if you're going to do follow-up interviews. You might repeat. I think what does Cresswell call that? Iterative consent or continual consent. Like, I think you might mention that here as well. Okay, and that's the IRB application. Hold on one sec. Let me go get the next document. Okay, research summary. Here we go. Also pretty solid here. Got some gray highlighting, just parts that are just a little confusing. That I think that they can be made a bit more clear. Goal of my research is to see SSU Women's Center as a resource from the inside. So, I mean, are you really saying that your goal of your research is to understand the SSU? To get an insider's perspective of the SSU Women's Center? I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying here. And maybe I'm just being too picky. I do think that the sentence is super long, and there's some important stuff in there, so if anything, you kind of break things up. It might be a little wordy, but I might just be a picky ass here on a Sunday morning. I'm sorry. Long sentence, important stuff, break it up. Okay. Getting into here, man, you knocked this out of the park. Like, I love how you brought Cresswell into this, into your research summary. Like, I think it just kind of adds to the credibility of what it is you're trying to do. You will need to clarify where exactly things will be stored. Again, my office for the informed consent forms, and a computer, even mentioning that it's a password protected computer for the audio files, or whether it's going to be on your phone. It just needs to be clear, like, how you're going to be storing that stuff. I thought that the analysis section was a bit skimpy, especially when you compare it against the methods section. I mean, that's getting back into Cresswell and talking about coding schemas and things like that. And I also think, just to round out the research summary here, I think you want to give yourself until the end of April, just in case you need to do follow-up interview. Somebody said something really interesting at a later interview. You want to get one of your earlier interviewees' perspectives on that topic. Give yourself a little extra time there. Okay, so that's that. The last document that I'm going to talk about, because I thought your informed consent form looked fine. This actually looks fine as well. I just kind of wanted to congratulate you a little bit more on, or kind of encourage you a little bit more here. This is awesome. Like, I thought you did a really good job with this. For me though, like, I'm trying to understand, like, what is the central phenomena, and this is maybe something for us to talk about tomorrow. Like, it seems like these are questions to just kind of get people to talk about the Women's Center. What is the phenomena that's, like, behind this that you're getting at? I'm sure there's something there, but for me, I'm thinking about you doing a phenomenology. I'm curious, like, okay, what's the phenomena that we're getting at? Purpose of the Women's Center. I see that in places. I see it, like, right here. But I don't know, maybe just kind of updating me where you are with this. This is fine. I'm not questioning the project at all. I'm just trying to make sure that there's that you kind of keep that clarity that we had a little while ago, and make sure that it maintains itself throughout your materials. So overall, great job, Dane. Looking forward to seeing this get off the ground, and I think we're nearly ready for IRB. So let's chat about any questions you have here. And let's chat about who you need to start emailing to set up some interviews. But I think the week after break, man, you're going to start doing some interviews. So congrats. Good job. And let's talk soon.